Hey, this is Pastor Josh with Revival Worship. Just wanted to bring you another video today. I've already done one video on Ableton, but I wanted to bring you a part 2 of Ableton. They're actually in kind of reverse of each other in the first part, which we have on our YouTube and Facebook page if you want to go take a look at it first. But it is how we build our set list for Sunday and Wednesday. So that's taking each of the individual songs that we choose through our set list and then putting them all together into one set where we can flow through it as a worship set. But I never really explained a lot of the details for each particular song. As you work on each song, as you load in these new multi-tracks, sort of the process that I take, the way that I go about it, that really just, it helps standardize everything. It helps bring just that continuity to everything by doing this process. So we'll jump right into Ableton here. So it really is an easy little thing here that we're going to get started. The song that we are working on is Endless Hallelujah. I've already downloaded the multitrack file here, and of course we talked about it in that last video, but it comes with this MultiTrack.als. When I click on it, it's going to open up live. Remember, ALS is an Ableton live session. It's going to bring everything up. The first thing I want to bring your attention to before it goes away is this buffering samples progress bar down here at the bottom. And all of these stems will not play until all of that is buffered out. So you don't want to jump right in and try to listen to it like right out of the gate. Let Ableton sort of chew on all these samples and figure out everything about them, and then it'll play flawlessly from there. So one of the first things that I like to do is we'll go in and create a group. So you can select multiple of the same type. If I were to select this track name here, which is click track, and then go to the very bottom, BGV FX2, I can hold shift and then click, and it's going to select everything that is that same type, that same track name in between. And with Command G, y'all know that I like hotkeys, I like things that are fast. So Command G creates a group. And technically that group is still selected right now, so we immediately do Command R to rename that group, and we're just going to name it the song. This is what will come over when we drag this into a set list for Sunday morning or for Wednesday night. All right, so that gets us ready for so that when we drag it over into the Sunday or Wednesday set list that we have over here, I showed y'all that in the last video. That's our Sunday project there. It'll already be in this group. It'll already be bunched together in that group. So that helps out a lot with the organization. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take care of the click and the guide track. I want them to be panned to the far right. So this is actually our pan function. C is for center right now. So it's 0, it's centered. And we're going to go 50 to the right. So if you just click on it and then type 50 and enter, that's 50 to the right. If you wanted 50 to the left, or any increment left or right, left is negative numbers and right is positive numbers. So you can set that up however you want. I do pan both of them to the right, even though I'm about to mute this click track. So I do that just as a precautionary. If this were to be turned on by mistake or happen chance, then it wouldn't be blaring through the system. As long as this is set to 0 and is centered, it is coming out of both sides, which for us, that means the side that is coming to our in-ears on the stage and the side that's going to front of house where everyone in the audience can hear it. So we want this click and guide. Obviously, we don't want the audience to hear that, and so we want to pan both of those to the right, even though I've muted the click track. So I've muted the click track because when we do drop these into project files, again, we use the metronome that's built into Ableton so that it follows the song or whatever it is. We can have the click track running before or after the length of any particular song. And so that allows us to sort of, if we wanted to do a special intro or at the end of the song, if it felt right, the moment was there, and we wanted to reprise the bridge or something like that, we can just have that click run through. And if you'll notice, this click track ends with the song. The stem click track ends with the rest of the stems. And so we would not have that functionality before or after a song, whatever we wanted to do there. I would have to cut this up and then copy and paste it over to where that click would run through. But we're allowing Ableton to generate the click for us so that we don't have to worry about that. It's going to be there all the time. All right, the next thing I'm going to look at in this song are parts that we may have already covered, meaning, I have a drummer, I have a bass player, I have background vocalists, I have an auxiliary keyboard, I have an acoustic guitarist, and I have an electric guitarist. And so understanding what each one of them is going to be doing in this song is vital at this point. If I don't understand what their role is in this song by the time I'm building this track and working on this track, then it's kind of a moot point. We're really not going to get very far in this. But I know that when we learn this song that our electric guitarist is going to be playing the lead line that is found in this EG1 part. So I can go ahead and mute it because I know that it's covered. I know that the piano part is going to be covered. And then I know the background part is going to be covered. The background vocal part is going to be covered. However, I kind of want to hang on to some of these background vocal effects because they're cool little things that happen in the song that are just effects that would be on the background vocals if they were still in here, but we can just sort of keep the effects on, and it just brings a little more sparkle, is a word that I'd like to use there, to the track, a little bit more life to the track. However, we can't just have these blaring effects and no BGVs because we took the background vocals out. I just muted that stem. And so I have to do something with this, and what I'm going to do with both of these is reduce their volume. It's the easiest way. I could automate, I could go in and listen to it and say that there's certain places where, this may need to be higher or lower, and automate that in real time throughout the song. But I'm just going to take both these tracks and we're going to reduce them by a certain amount. I'm going to say we're going to reduce them by 6 decibel. And so that's just -6. I'm clicking on that blue marker there that was 0. That's sort of the volume of this particular track, this particular stem. I was clicking on it, and then just -6 and enter brings you down to 6. Of course, you can click and drag on these, and it's always really hard to get it lined exactly back up where you want it to. So being able to type the value in is very good there too. All right. So that basically brings everything that I would need. There's no drum part in this anyways, everything is covered. Everything that is left in here is somebody that is not on the stage. So this second electric guitar part, these strings parts, and then the effects for the background vocals are left in there. All right, the last thing over on this side before we get into sort of the arrangement side of things is there are 2 sort of outputs right here. This top output is for the Ableton generated noises, if you want to think about it that way. And then the second output down here is for all these stems. So we want all these stems to be running left and right because we panned our click and guide to go to the right, so we can use the stereo, quote-unquote stereo version of these stems to go to front of house. But I don't want this, I don't want the Ableton click and anything else, any other noise that it may generate. I don't want it to go to the house. I only want it to go to the right-hand side of this stereo mix. And so for that is number 2. 1 is left, 2 is right. The right-hand side is what comes to our ears. That is the half of this stereo mix that goes to our ears. That has the click and the guide. So if we don't put this on 2, then this metronome that Ableton is going to generate for us is going to be both in our ears and in the house. And we don't want that. We talked about that earlier with panning the click and guide tracks. And so this puts the Ableton click only in our ears and not in the house. And then this parameter right here determines where all of these actual stems are being sent to. Likewise, we have this light blue that is our master volume. So if the whole thing was too loud or whatever, then I could reduce it by however much or increase it by however much I wanted to. And then the dark blue here is the Ableton generated, like the metronome and such as that. And so that is sort of this second output here. So if the click is too loud, but the rest of the track and everything is fine, then we leave the track alone. This is what is sort of going to front of house or the left-hand side of your mix. And then this is the right-hand side of your mix, the click that is coming from Ableton, the click that's been generated by Ableton. So you can adjust the differences between those two if one were to be louder than the other, or if maybe you have a track that has a bunch more parts in it, and so you need to maybe instead of -3, you need to do +3 to get that click sort of up and in the mix with everything else that may be going on in a busy track. So these are just parameters that we use for our Sunday and Wednesday. I think I showed y'all this. We set this at -5 and for the front of house, and then for the what's being sent back to our ears was -3, so that click was always just a couple of decibels louder than what was being sent to front of house. And that was for us, for our ears, so that the click was the most predominant thing in our ears. So, all right, the last thing that I want to talk about here very quickly is the arrangement functionality that you can gain by using Ableton. And we've talked about Ableton a lot. I've talked about Ableton a lot. But one of my favorite things is that when I opened that MultiTrack.als file, these locators were already here, showing me where the count in happens. Some people call it the cue. Verse 1, chorus, interlude, verse 2, chorus, instrumental, bridge, chorus, and it goes on through the rest of the song there all the way to the ending. And so if I needed to rearrange, let's say that this bridge happens once right here in the middle of the song, and I really, really like that bridge a lot, then I can just create it again. I can make it happen again, essentially. And so we use the loop locator for this. And so you can control click on any locator, and there's an option there. It says loop to next locator. And you'll notice that this loop bar, this gray bar at the top here, I know it's all gray, but this gray bar at the top here shrunk to be in between these two locators. And now if I were to select that bar, you can see that every stem, all the automation, anything that may be down here, everything gets selected all at the same time. And then again, with a control click, I can delete this time. I can take this bridge completely out, and it's not just going to leave a blank 35 seconds there. It's going to bring everything back together. I can duplicate that time to where I just copy that time directly again. This is actually what I'm going to show you guys. And so you'll see now there are now two bridges back to back technically, because we took that first bridge that locator did end here, that loop locator ended here, and we duplicated it, and now it's twice as long. And so if we were to listen to this, we may have to do some finagling and mess with some of these tracks so that it's a little bit smoother as far as their transition go, but we could have two bridges back to back that were not a part of the original arrangement of the song. The other way that we can sort of use this is in our transitions. We have a transition every single service that we do. And so sometimes it's the bridge or chorus or last verse of the song that we just sang, or sometimes it's a completely different song. So if we're going back into a spot in a song, I showed y'all this in the first video as well, but we can use these locators and this key function right here. And let's say I wanted to do that bridge again, I can just say that the B key on the keyboard is what takes us back to the bridge. And so anytime, no matter where we're playing at or where we may be, at any given moment, I can press B, and then at the next downbeat, we're right back to that chorus. I'm sorry, right back to that bridge. And if we did get through this progression here and we were at the very end and we were sort of feeling our way through it and we wanted to do that bridge one more time, you just press B and it's called up right there for you. It's a great little tool to have. The arrangement capabilities of Ableton are really immersive. You can get in and mess with every single detail that you need to mess with. Like I said, sometimes when you duplicate things or mess with the arrangement, it'll sound kind of odd, like, because the instruments, the players themselves are playing into the chorus instead of playing into another bridge or whatever it is. And so anytime that you run across that, you can always go in here, and of course you can expand these so that you can see the audio files, the actual waveforms, if that helps you out any. But you can always move these around individually, where maybe a measure before, I need that guitar part to come in a measure before so it's not so abrupt with all these other instruments that are coming in at measure 55. Or you can do several of them. Say that I need everything to come in at 54 because that's when it's supposed to come in. And you can select multiple and move them out, move them all around, whatever you need to do. A lot of times the guide will have to be ran out so that the bridge is then called again, if that makes sense. Because we actually started the loop right after the bridge was called. It's technically the downbeat of the bridge. And so sometimes you have to mess with this to be able to have your guides in the correct place at least. So I hope this helped you guys out and gave you some insight into some of the functionality of Ableton. It really is a great tool, great resource to have. So I hope you learned something from it, a way that you can utilize this. Even if you're not using Ableton, all these concepts are just standard concepts. If you're using GarageBand that's free, or any other program like that that's free, you can still utilize these concepts, go through, apply a process to the way that you approach a new multi-track. It's going to give you consistency in the way that you rehearse. It's going to give you consistency in the way that you perform. And so it really is a great little tool to have there. So I love you guys. Hope you found this video fun. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.